Welcome to the Buick Outdoors Podcast. I'm your host, Sheldon, and on this podcast, we dive deep into the outdoors. We discuss hunting and fishing techniques, give you tips and tricks, tell stories, and everything in between to help you enjoy the outdoors. This podcast is brought to you by Northbound Gear. Northbound Gear makes some of the best affordable outdoor gear on the market today. I have all of their pants, their tactical jacket, and the Apex jacket. I can't say anything but good things about their clothing, and I wear this stuff daily. I just put the Adventure water resistant pants and the Apex waterproof jacket to the test on my latest overnight ice fishing trip, where the wind chill made the temperature drop down to minus 41 and it kept me warm and dry. If you want to check out their lineup of clothing and accessories, head over to northboundgear.co and use my promo code Sheldon15 at checkout to receive 15% off your order. That's northboundgear.co and use my promo code Sheldon, the number 1 and the number 5 at checkout to save 15% off your order. Hey everyone, welcome back to another Buick Outdoors podcast. If you're new around here, my name is Sheldon and I'm your host. As you can tell, winter has definitely set in here now in the Peace region, and we've already seen some of its dramatic weather changes going from kind of plus 9 to, the other day was minus 40 with the wind chill. That was not a fun day. It's windy when it's warm, windy when it's cold, 1 or 2 days of calm in between, and it makes it fairly hard to kind of plan for anything really. But that's where it'd be nice to kind of have something close by here that I could kind of have established, maybe with like a wall tent or something like that, just to have somewhere to kind of go and to escape to. Unlike anybody else, I don't really like being cooped up at the house for too long, and having something where I can just kind of take the sled or the side-by-side to and just kind of relax and kind of get rid of your stress and stuff from the week of work. That would be that'd be something else to have. The unfortunate thing up here, when it comes to leaving like a wall tent set up in the summertime, not necessarily from mice and critters and stuff, although they probably would wreak a little bit of havoc on it from time to time, but the bears especially would just absolutely destroy your stuff. I've lost several hunting blinds from bears to the point where I quit buying them. Now if I want to go and set something up to hunt out of, it's just like a wall of willows or trees or something like that I throw up together. The amount of money that I've lost just from bears chewing up my little pop-up blinds and stuff is, I don't even want to know. But that was probably one of the best parts about us having the trap lines. Not necessarily for the trapping, but for the cabins. Trapping was fun. It was very educational. It gave you kind of a purpose for the weekend, and it really did get you outside. But I still think the best part is just the downtime and the relaxing time just spent at the cabin. You're nice and secluded. It's just dead silent, other than out at Cecil. Every night we were right underneath the little flyway there, so one little jet would go overhead there, and that's one of those things that you kind of start to miss after a little while, when it's just dead silent and you just hear that real slow burning jet going above your head. And it was nice. I definitely miss being surrounded by the trees and whiskey jacks and squirrels and stuff. It was one of those places that just kind of felt like home, but we can I can always take the wall tent or even one of my ice fishing tents or something like that, set that up in the trees here somewhere. I would like to build kind of like a fort or something like that, and maybe even do like a YouTube series on that. The problem is, typically around here, once there's like a single track going into somewhere, and I mean, I would take the side-by-side and my snowmobile into the little fort kind of a thing. But as soon as there's one track into somewhere, people always follow the tracks. And then, yeah, it would just kind of get destroyed and stuff. So, I don't know, maybe one day in the future, I might just kind of suck it up and give it a go, see how it works. But, yeah, that's future plans anyways. But, yeah, this weather that we've been having here, when I was at work, I had a couple of days where it was, the one day I think it was +9. Day after that started to rain, then it got cold, and then it turned to snow. Then over in the Grand Prairie area, we got almost a foot of snow overnight. Up around Buick, we got kind of, I want to say 6 to 8 inches of snow. But yeah, and then things kind of turned around a little bit. When I got off shift on Wednesday and Thursday, it wasn't too bad. The weather was nice, but the wind started to pick up. So I had plans for Thursday, and I kind of canceled them. And I got in touch with my brother, and he wanted to go ice fishing out at Inga, because he was out at Inga on Thursday, I believe. And it was a beautiful day, but it was just windy as hell. So I didn't really want to do my thing that I had planned on Thursday, just because dealing with the wind, I knew the potential of it becoming -20 or colder overnight, plus that wind. I just didn't want to risk it. But anyways, yeah, we made plans to go out Friday and spend the night out at Inga Lake. And it started out really nice. It was, I think it was about -18 or so when we first went out there. And then the wind slowly picked up throughout the day. And then in the evening, the wind was kind of going from kind of east to north, kind of a deal, and it kept changing on us. And then right around midnight, it was just straight out of the north, and it was about -23, I think. And then with that wind, it wasn't a slow little wind either. Like, it was at least 40. The gusts were maybe a little bit stronger, and I think according to Environment Canada charts, when it's -25 with a sustained wind of 40 kilometers an hour, you're looking at about a -41 wind chill. And so yeah, Blaine didn't quite make it all the way through the night. Around midnight, he called it quits, went into his truck with his dog. I lasted about another hour and a half, maybe. Maybe it was around 2 a.m. And I had to pull the pin too, because my dogs, even though they were in the tent on top of a cot, on top of a sleeping bag, and I had 2 propane heaters going, it wasn't enough to keep the dogs warm. If it was just me, I might have been able to spend the rest of the night there, because I was wearing all my winter clothes and stuff inside of a -20 sleeping bag. So yeah, I was fairly warm. You know, your face and your nose and stuff, it gets pretty cold when you're breathing in that cold air. But for the most part, I was warm, and if I had to, I could have made it, I think. It wouldn't have been overly too enjoyable, but it could be done. But yeah, so it's not exactly twice that I've tried to kill someone on the ice, but it's twice that the weather has turned very bad. But yeah, I don't know. We might, I might try again here on my next set of days off. Maybe at another lake, possibly Moose Lake. I've heard good things about Moose Lake in the past. I know someone that just went in there, and they said that the road was plowed out, and even the campground, there's a spot plowed out for you to park there. So that won't be too bad. That's another issue with Inga. It's a great place to go fishing, but unless you actually call up a grader and get them to plow stuff out for you, even into the campground usually doesn't get plowed anymore. CNRL was plowing into there, but now they have all their stuff in there pretty well shut down, shut in, put bed kind of a deal. So yeah, they're not plowing the roads anymore. So the lake and one of the accesses on the far side of the lake doesn't get plowed out. So now if you want to go in there, you're it's a little risky at times, but yeah, you might get stuck. So just a heads up, if you want to head into Inga Lake during the winter, it's probably best just to park on the side of the road instead of try to get in there unless they actually plow it out. But it also depends on how many people go into the lake too. Some years, enough people go into that lake where there's a really good beaten path into the lake, and as long as you stay on the track, you're perfectly fine. But yeah, other years, it's not so good. Yeah, and then another thing I might do too, instead of trying to sleep in my little pop-up ice fishing tent, I might steal Dad's what we call the sugar shack. It's just a little tandem axle trailer. I don't really know the dimensions of that. Maybe 8 by, I don't know if it'd be 20, maybe 16 feet. Somewhere's around there. But then basically we took, or not we, he took the trailer and he got basically a utilidor cabin built on top of it. And then utilidor, if you don't know what that is, it's basically tin with like that kind of 2-inch styrofoam insulation in between the sheets of tin, and they're just kind of like panels. So you got 4 walls and a roof, and then inside he put a little wood stove in there, and there's a queen size bed on the back wall. There's a window in there, table, chairs. I think last year he kind of got like one of those real small 12-volt fridges. They bolted in there. I think you just run an extension cord out the wall and plug her into a generator, kind of a thing. So you have a fridge in there too, and man, that thing, it works like a charm, and it's so comfortable when you're staying in that. It's just like having a mobile cabin on wheels. Basically, take it wherever you want that you can really fit the trailer in there, or where the road is plowed out. And yeah, you got a mobile cabin. And Dad there, he was crazy bugger. He was thinking about selling it when he moved south. And yeah, he was asking me if I knew anyone that wanted it. And I said, well, yeah, I'll buy it. And he's kind of, well, I don't know if I'd want to sell it to you or not. You know, you don't really want this thing. And it's like, oh yeah, no, that thing would be wicked. And then pretty sure Blaine said the same thing. So now I think what his plan is when he moves south, he's gonna park it at either my place or Blaine's place, or we'll just take turns back and forth. Whoever's using it parks it at their house, kind of a thing. And then basically when Dad comes up for hunting season or berry picking or whatever, he can just hook onto it, take it, use it. I mean, after all, it's his little sugar shack. And yeah, other than that, it'll just kind of hang out at one of our places, and yeah, it'll mainly be used for me during the winter for ice fishing and stuff. And then for Blaine, because he doesn't have a holiday trailer, I'm sure he'll use it in the spring, summer, fall, and winter. You know, it'd be just kind of like a poor man's holiday trailer. With me, I got my nice little setup here. So, yeah, I won't really need it during the spring, summer, and fall. And then that'd be kind of nice too, being able to go camping with Blaine, and he won't have to stay with me unless he wants to. You know, he'll have his own little holiday trailer kind of thing. He won't have any of the modern deals that I got in my trailer. He definitely won't have no flat screen TV or running water or anything like that. But he'll have the bare necessities to get you out and about in the woods and stuff. And then worst case scenario too, if he needs to use the toilet or needs to have a shower, or do his dishes or whatever, he can come into my trailer for camping together and do up his dishes and stuff in my trailer. And if it's raining out and he's kind of tired of reading a book or something and he wants to watch a movie again, if we're camping together, he can always come into my trailer, fire up the generator, turn on the TV, watch a movie, play Monopoly, do whatever. But yeah, I think that thing, if Dad does decide to leave it with us, that thing is it's gonna see some miles, that's for sure. Uh, you know, last year I spent Christmas in it at Inga Lake, and that was definitely one of the best Christmases I've had since our last one that we had out at the cabin. That used to be kind of our tradition, is every year at Christmas time we'd get a chicken. We'd throw the chicken onto the wood stove in the morning. We'd run out, check our traps, come back in. We open up the cabin door, and chicken's pretty well done cooking, and the cabin just smelt amazing. Then you'd quickly do up your potatoes and peas and carrots, whatever it is that you're, whatever else you're cooking up there. And oh yeah, it was always a great way to spend Christmas. So so last year there, it kind of brought back that kind of nostalgia of it all. I was out there for, I think, 3 days, 2 for sure. And on Christmas Day there, I cooked up a nice little chicken on the roast pan there on the wood stove. Kind of did the same thing at the cabin, except instead of checking traps, I was fishing all day. You just go in every couple of hours with that wood stove that Dad has. It's a fairly small wood stove, so you have to stoke it up a few times during the day. But yeah, come evening time, chicken was all done and cooked up. Then I put on a pot of potatoes and peas and carrots. No, that time I think I made honey and sugar carrots. But yeah, it was pretty good. Once it was all done cooking up on the wood stove there, I took the lid off and I had my big wood stove, and I built a fire in the far back side of the wood stove. And once it was going, it was nice and hot in there. I took the chicken with the lid off. I threw it into my big wood stove, because the whole pan fits into there. Close it up, put a nice little browning on top of the chicken. I think I made mashed potatoes and all that good stuff. Made some gravy out of it. And then afterwards, I had a bunch of these small little pies, threw them into the wood stove too, heated them up. So we had the chicken dinner, buns and all that good stuff, and pie afterwards for dessert. So yeah, I made a full-on Christmas meal out at Inga Lake in the Sugar Shack, just with the wood stove. Well, and then I used the propane burner there for the potatoes and carrots. But yeah, that was a good trip. I think that trip too, if you want to check it out on YouTube there, you'll have to kind of search for it now. But yeah, I made a video that day on that, and yeah, that was a nice little Christmas getaway for me, Shelby, Dad, and myself, Karen there. They were all out, so yeah, that was a good way to spend Christmas. Do you want to become part of the Buick Outdoors team, represent one of the best Northern BC YouTube channels, and help us grow? If you do, then check out our brand new online store. We have a bunch of new merch set up and ready to sell. We have everything from hats, shirts, sweaters, cups, mugs, backpacks, pillows, and the list goes on. It's also made for men, women, children, toddlers, and we even have something for your pets. We have several designs to choose from and a bunch of different colors and sizes. Head over to shop.spreadshirt.ca/Buick Outdoors to check it out. That's shop.spreadshirt.ca/Buick Outdoors and join the team today. Yeah, and when I'm doing stuff like that too, like, I could have easily spent a couple weeks out there just being out on the lake, catching fish, enjoying kind of nature, and just kind of being away from everything. It kind of makes me think back to like how the old timers did it there on the trap lines back in the day, like old Jack Schulte there. Uh, I couldn't imagine how peaceful his life would have been during the winter at his cabin on the trap line. Uh, Me and Dad actually took our snowmobiles into his old cabin there. It was kind of like the neighboring trap line to our silver line. Uh, I don't know when exactly that was. I know I was still in high school, so it was geez, probably 15 years ago now. But that was pretty cool being able to slide into there because it was, man, it was in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of nowhere. And then also, it's not just you're driving down a road and it just happens to be there. We were, whatever, 20 miles on a snowmobile trail where it's just old seismic lines and old hand cut lines. And then at one random spot, I remember on the left hand side of the trail, there was a small little opening. And Dad was looking at it and he goes, "Well, I know somewhere around here is where Jack's old cabin is, so this kind of looks like a trail. Maybe we'll head in here." And went in there, and lo and behold, found his old cabin. Uh, he had his cabin set up there. He had an old food cache. A food cache, it's basically a miniature cabin, like a 6x6 cabin that's up on like 20-foot stilts up in the air. And then that way it keeps the bears and mice and stuff out of your food. But that thing, it blew over. So it was laid out on across the yard. But surprisingly enough, that thing it wasn't really damaged all that much. It looks like somebody just kind of picked it up, put it on its side, and that's where it was sitting. So whoever constructed that, I'm assuming old Jack Schulte, he did a hell of a job building that for it to fall off the stilts and still be in one piece. You definitely wouldn't have something built like that today. But then also across his yard there was probably 6 or 7 dog houses for all the sled dogs. There was a great big spruce tree, and hanging up on one of the branches was about a dozen old beaver hoops. Beaver hoops, they're old stretchers for beaver. They're made out of willow. Basically, you take 2 willows that are still green, and you tie them up on one end, and they come around as a big hoop, and you tie them on the other end. And then when you stretch out your beaver, you start the nose and the tail, and then you do the sides, and then you go in between each ties, and eventually you just stretch your beaver out on this willow hoop, and then you have a nice little beaver round, and you let your beaver hides dry like that. And yeah, not too many people even know where an old beaver hoop is, let alone have seen one or put their hands on one, kind of a thing. So that was pretty nifty, being able to see one that wasn't like a recreated one. Like those beaver hoops were actually used by old Jack. So little memorabilia things like that. It's pretty cool to be able to say that you got your hands on it, kind of a thing. And all that, we didn't bring anything out. We just picked it up, looked at it, kind of, oh wow, that's pretty neat. Then we put it all back, and then his cabin was still standing. It was in absolutely phenomenal shape. If you're just listening to this and you're not watching it on YouTube, you're kind of missing out, because right here I'm gonna put up a little picture of the old cabin there with me standing in front of it, and yeah, it's pretty neat how some of that stuff is still standing. Uh, Man, even on the inside of the cabin, because out there you never locked your doors, uh, especially back in the day. Every old timer kind of knew where everybody's cabin was. That way, if you ever ran into trouble, back then neighbors were good neighbors. You didn't have to worry about anybody for the most part. There's probably the odd person that was kind of trouble, uh, but 99% of people If you had troubles, you knew where your neighbor's cabin was. If it was closer than yours, you would just go to their place. And if nobody was home, the door was open, wood box is full. You just went in, made yourself at home, get yourself situated, and then in the morning you could take off and kind of get back home, kind of a thing. Uh, but yeah, we walked inside, and man, that thing was still just pristine on the inside, other than the obvious mouse droppings here and there, and the odd thing was chewed up. I think there's a pair of shoes that was chewed up, and his old sleeping bag and foamy cot was chewed up. Well, when you walk in there, it was a nice little log cabin, and on the right hand side, I want to say there's just one big kind of cupboard, and there's a medicine cabinet there. He had his single mattress on the far side on the wall. Beside that was a little nightstand. Inside the medicine cabinet, there's a bunch of small little brown glass bottles, all missing the labels and stuff. So it was, you didn't exactly want to crack those open and give them a sniff, because you never knew what the old timers had for medication and pills and rat poison and whatever else. It was all a mystery. Back in the day, he probably knew exactly what was in there, but yeah, now all the labels were gone, and you just, yeah. It was cool to pick it up, look at it, and say, hey, that's pretty neat. Put it back and leave the cap on. And then his nightstand there that was beside his bed, I opened that up, and inside was his old it was BC Trappers Association card that was in there, and I can't remember what year it was from. But that, we ended up taking that out with us, and also there was an old Trapper Nelson frame bag that was in there, and the frame bag and Jack Schulte's BC Trapper Association card, we donated that to the Fort St. John Museum. So those are hanging up in the Fort St. John Museum. So if you go there and you see that that display, if you grab that Trapper Nelson bag, pretty well anyone looking at it, you'd probably think that it's just some hunk of junk, dirty old canvas bag. But if you only knew just even the story of how it got to the museum, you would be absolutely blown away. Let alone the amount of stories that bag could tell just from being on kind of Jack Schulte's back over the years, and just the amount of traps and fur that's gone in and out of that bag. It'd be a phenomenal story if that bag could talk. The weird thing though was when we were in there and getting ready to leave, looking around, it almost looked like the old boy there just kind of packed everything up as if his season came to an end, like it does every spring, and he kind of just locked everything up or put everything away, tidied up, cleaned the place up, walked away, and then for whatever reason just didn't quite make it back out. I don't know if maybe some health issues got to him, or he sold the line to somebody and they didn't go back out to that cabin, or what the deal is. But it's amazing that just how many of those cabins like that are scattered throughout even the Peace region, let alone the Peace region, southern BC with like all the old gold mines and stuff. Alberta has a huge history of trapping and ranches and stuff too that are the kind of the same thing. Even old homesteads. My great grandpa's old homestead, we quadded into there, kind of like a family reunion quite a few years ago. I think that was probably back in 2011, maybe 2012. We quadded into the old homestead. Well, at first we actually took a helicopter in there, which was pretty nifty. Went and we looked at the old barn, the old stables, looked at the old house. Even the old outhouse was still standing, which was pretty cool. Then you find some old relics, like there's a bunch of old kids' toys that were still in there, and old wood stoves that were kind of about 3/4 of the way rusted out, but you can still tell that it was an old wood stove. So it's pretty nifty what you can find in the bush, and even right here around Buick, uh, just right across the road from me, maybe 300 yards, if that. There's an old house that's all kind of caved in now, but yeah, there's an old house over there. Same thing as Great Grandpa's old homestead. You can see where the wood stove was. Uh, with this one, that's about the only thing you can see. It's still pretty cool to be able to walk through there and look. It's pretty nifty. And then just up the road here, about 2 kilometers on the left there. If you go way back in there, there's another old uh, uh, house site in there. You can tell where there was an old house. There's kind of cement set up for a second house. There's a couple of sheds. And if you go into the back corner, there's an old combine in there, which is pretty nifty. Oh, geez. What else is around here? My spot where I like to go and look for moose. I don't know what kind of a shack it was at one point in time, but it's kind of like a 10 by 10 shack that's all caved in and stuff, and that's right along the banks of the creek. So I don't know if that was an old skidder shack, maybe. But yeah, it's pretty cool what you can find when you're out in the bush and the stuff that you stumble upon. Even like old cars and stuff, on the Silver Line, we found there's an old car parked right by the cabin. I think it was like a old blue Chevy car. And then out on the old Cecil line, before they put in a new pipeline there on the one corner of the road, we were setting lynx traps in there the one day and happened to notice something kind of parked in these tall willows and spruce trees. And yeah, there's another car parked out there all rusted out and stuff. So it kind of makes you wonder who drove it in there, what happened, why it got left behind. And if only you could kind of tap into their stories from time to time and kind of just see, what led that car or that house or whatever to be abandoned and left there. And yeah, it's pretty cool what you can find. Yeah, it's a shame that we can't kind of pick up all that stuff and somehow transport them to some kind of a cool little museum or something like that, and where they could be kind of preserved and people could kind of look at it and kind of run your hands along some of the workmanship and craftsmanship and really get a feel for the amount of work that those guys put in to building these cabins. Because a lot of the time, you didn't go in with a chainsaw and a group of people. Like, you hiked into a spot and you had basically hand tools and a rifle and a little bit of provisions, and you just kind of picked a spot and said, yeah, this looks about right. And you just cut down the trees that were around you. You hand peeled all the logs. You set up your foundation. You cut the grooves with the saw at first. Chip them out with your axe. Use a hand chisel to smooth it all out. Stack them up and slowly put a cabin together, or in some places slowly put up a house. And it's just amazing that some of these places are still standing, where you can literally walk up and you can put your hand on the old axe marks and stuff. And you can really feel like the history and the craftsmanship and the knowledge that's slowly getting lost. And yeah, it's a shame that most people don't get to do that. It's also a shame that most people kind of don't really care either. That's where I'm pretty happy where I'm one of the few people that when I do find something like that, you know, the amount of work that has gone into something that was hand built, and like you can almost feel like the pride and knowledge in the walls itself, kind of a thing. I don't it's one of those things where you either know the feeling or you don't. It's kind of like my old 30-30, grandpa's old gun. If when I pick that thing up, it to me it's not just a old rifle. You can feel my dad's hands and my grandpa's hands that were on that gun. And yeah, it's really made me kind of shift from liking synthetic stocks to liking wood stocks on guns. Mainly just because one day it'd be kind of cool that I'll be able to hand down my gun to one of my kids or my grandkids or something like that, and hopefully they kind of get the same feeling where they can hold up the old CZ-22 and say, yeah, this is Grandpa's gun, and he shot a lot of chickens with it back in the day, or the old 30-06, my old 16 gauge shotgun, all those rifles that are all wood stocks, and yeah, it's something else to kind of put your hands on them and pack them through the bush, and it's pretty cool. But anyways, guys, I think I'm gonna cut her there, and I want to thank you guys for listening to the podcast. If you're just listening to this and you want to watch the video version, you can head over to YouTube, check out our YouTube channel, just called Buick Outdoors. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to listen to this on the next one or listen to one of our old episodes, just search up the Buick Outdoors podcast on any major podcast platform, and yeah, you'll find us out there. But yeah, anyways, guys, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a rating on whatever platform you're listening to us on. And yeah, we'll see you on the next one.